Hey, hello. It is that time again. I'm David Barron. Every Saturday, about this time, this very same time, I try to answer your questions about hypnosis. This is for really anybody who has an interest in hypnosis, professional or amateur, whatever degree, even if you just have a passing interest in hypnosis. I'm happy to address it. A couple of things that I want to address here are, let's see, I'll be talking about some questions that were asked me: dyslexia and color blindness. I want to refer to this book, which I found super amusing. I managed to get a few copies. There's only one copy left I have to sell, but it's very amusing. I also want to address the fact, can memories be erased? As well as a question about hyper-empathic hypnosis subjects and the importance of sensory acuity in hypnosis. I want to take a moment. There are a bunch of people I want to try and invite here. I just want to make sure that, well, I tell you what, if you would, please take a moment to find your friends and share this with them. Let them know if they're in the group. It'll be awesome. I would love to have you be a part of this. And let's see, I'm inviting my friends right now. Let's see. Excellent, excellent. Okay. There's a whole list of people here who could be part of this. Oh, wonderful. All right. And what I'd like you to do is also, if you have a chance, if you're in any other hypnosis groups, take a moment to share this in the various other hypnosis groups that are out there. This is basically, like I say, this is for really anybody. And where I guess I want to start, if you don't know who I am, great place to start. My name's David Barron. I founded this Facebook group, the Advanced Hypnosis Skills Facebook group. I've been doing hypnosis for nearly 20 years. I figure maybe I've worked with 10,000 people. And I've also have two hypnosis practices, one way on the East Coast, one in Oregon, on the eastern side of Oregon, so near the West Coast. Most of the work I do is one-on-one with people. Either I'm facing them and working with them, or I am working with them through a teleconferencing service. And, oh, hey, thanks for the thumbs up, John Joe Gill, appreciate it. The other things that I guess I could talk about is the fact that I have established myself in some ways as an authority by doing this, and I think it's a great way. Oh, just a second. I see I have to groom myself. My eyebrows are looking a little excessively bushy. Always good to have a hypnotist who looks really weird. I've written quite a few books. Most of a good many of the books I've written are under the name Dantalian Jones. I have also helped co-write a book with the late Jeffrey Stevens on the hypnosis workshop. So anyway, that's just my attempt to put aside my humility and talk about why I might well be qualified to talk about this. So let's just go and address the topics that I had here. And please, if you have any questions, just type them in and send them to me. I am addressing questions that were sent to me during the week, which is another great way of doing it. You can always come back and listen to the video, whatever questions come to mind. Know that to the best of my ability, I'm going to try and answer. Okay, so first question near the top is, I talked with, through Facebook chat, with Miko about dyslexia and how I have not worked a lot with dyslexia. In fact, I haven't worked at all with it, but he has worked with dyslexia using the hypnosis, the Jeff Stevens hypnosis model that I teach. And he has gotten really good results with dyslexia. It does make sense. The subconscious mind is sort of the major processing unit of all information. It is wired a certain way, but through instructions, it can be rewired in other ways as well. So dyslexia can be, at least to some extent, effectively treated with hypnosis. Now, it was also addressed, could it work with color blindness? Now, that's a really, I think, an interesting question. I could answer yes or no. I personally think the answer is mostly no, simply because color blindness is a result of a genetic difference in how the rods and cones of the eyes are formed. Typically, it is. Now, that does not mean that you cannot create an illusion that there is color in someone who has color blindness. Another example of that would be there are these glasses that people can put on that have a very strong effect, augmenting the ability to perceive color, that colorblind people can use, and it is fairly dramatic. My guess would be that if you could have someone wear those glasses for a while, their mind would become familiar with how to process light, and then you could, through hypnosis, create a filter that does, in fact, see visually in that particular way, as if the glasses were on. I mean, one of the metaphors I often use is, what would it be like if you put a filter in front of you through which you now see the world, and you see the world now only as, in this case, say a non-smoker or something like that. So yeah, in that sense, it could perhaps be done, but it's not something I've experimented with. I would love to try it. There is a history, at least, of Bandler and Grinder, when they started doing their stuff with NLP in I think Palo Alto, California. They did for a while get someone to have perfect vision by regressing them mentally in time to a time when they did not have to wear glasses. And I think that's entirely possible. It's not something I have done myself. The longer, deeper story about it is that did not last very long. It only lasted for a couple of days, and the vision went back to normal. So there could be some things that could be augmented with hypnosis to do that. Okay, also I wanted to talk about this book. I have a smile on my face, I noticed, because of this book. This is perhaps for anyone who, I have one of them for sale on my site. I have it, actually two, but I'm going to be giving one away for a gift. You can find these on Amazon. They're published in the UK. This is really an ideal coffee table type of book. You know, the kind of book you lay on the coffee table and people will sit back and open up, because it's like rich with images and pictures. Oh, here's a great one. Here's a great one. Hypnotize. It goes way back, goes to the history of hypnosis. It goes to various people in hypnosis, performers, as well as psychologists. Talks about later on in the end of the book about the neurology and the physiology of it, as well as the dodgy stuff about hypnosis. So it's one of those things that if you have it on your coffee table, you can just open it up and find something really interesting and amusing. And I would probably recommend, if you have an office with a waiting room, I think that would be an incredible book to have there. In fact, think I just decided that's what I'm going to be doing here with my office, is have that out there. You can get, I have only got a limited number, and they're all gone except for one. But you can get them, I saw, on Amazon, and the price may be going up on Amazon. So I'd recommend you have something like that. In fact, I would recommend any good book that has hypnosis on it, you should probably just place on your coffee table or in your office if you have one. It just keeps people interested. It lets them know this is a serious subject, even though it might be presented in an entertaining way. But it also keeps their mind focused on hypnosis and what it can do. So if you have questions about that, let me know. I'd love to talk about it. I also, on the Advanced Hypnosis Skills webpage, excuse me, I go like this and it has to focus there like that. I saw about how it was Samsung developed a hypnosis process so that you could erase the memory of seeing a television show so that you could enjoy it again. I have the link in the hang on just a second. I have a link in the description of the video here. It's called Unspoil Me. I took the time as a hypnotist. I had to listen to it, and there are a couple responses. First of all, if you read about it, you're going to hear a lot of people it didn't work on, and I understand it. But I listened to it as a hypnotist, listening to a hypnosis script, and it's pretty damn good. The fellow does a very thorough job. He does a lot of submodality work. He does a lot of timeline changes. He also does some very, very skillful covert inductions. So they are not direct. They're very Ericksonian type inductions. None of this sleep stuff like that. Qualitatively, the hypnosis session is very good. They also, if you click on it, they use a really high-def, beautiful graphic to look at up until you close your eyes. Now, the question comes down to, why are so many people saying that it didn't work? And here's my take on that. It didn't work for a lot of people for several reasons, which is, first of all, it's just a recording. There is no one there to actually look at you, notice that you're responding, and take you to the next step. You are entirely obligated, in order to get the effect, you are obligated to follow every bit of the instructions yourself, and that's just assumed in really any hypnosis recording. So there's going to be a tendency among people, a lot of people I suspect, to become aware in the middle of it, to see how much they can undo consciously what has been done. And so a lot of people are, at the end of it, are going to try and recall the TV show again and make a really serious effort to recall it, and probably it can be done. So I think part of it is because it is also obviously a marketing gimmick, that diminishes the amount of authority that is given to this audio. I mean, it's a good marketing gimmick. It will bring people to the site. It'll keep them listening to this hypnosis process for a certain amount of time. So as a marketing gimmick, it's pretty good, but if you know it's a marketing gimmick, you're not going to take it very seriously. And so again, I think a lot of people are going to use that, and that will probably be the possible excuse as to why they don't follow, don't get the result from it. Now from that, there is a question that comes about of can memories be erased using hypnosis? And I have some pretty strong feelings that the answer is yes. I'm not saying this is something you should do. There are situations in which I do it. But usually hypnosis, again, it's once you're able to talk to subconscious processes and bypass that critical factor that allows you to judge and evaluate things, you can tell people to forget something and it's relatively gone. There are occasional cases in which I use this. The example that I use it most when I do use it is with a stop smoking client. Now, again, this is a special circumstance with a stop smoking client, and I'll give a recent example. This one stop smoking client, first, she had an incredibly positive result for stopping smoking. I mean, this is a lady who has COPD, is on a respirator. Very first session worked great for like 3 days, not even a thought. So she responded really well to hypnosis. On that third day, a bunch of crazy things happened, and 6 policemen showed up at her door. It's a long story, but not important. Showed up at her door with their hands, on their holsters, and totally stressed her out. Just blew everything away. She got really anxious. Under those circumstances, I totally understand why she would resort back to smoking, and she did. Now, she did not smoke as much. It wasn't as enjoyable, which is fine. And when she came back, we worked again a second time to do it. And again, I work with people 3 times. This second time, it didn't take then either, simply because, well, actually, she just went outside and she told me she just had a cigarette. So, third time, this is when I do the whole complete mind-blowing, mess with your head, erase your memory type thing. I qualify it. She wants, obviously, to be a non-smoker. She's breathing a respirator all the time, and it's important to her health. So I asked her quite simply, would it be okay if I just make you completely hate smoking, just totally dislike it? And she said that she would love that. She wants that. I said, okay, you've given me permission. Thank you. The hypnosis session is, by the third hypnosis session, people are typically very familiar with the hypnosis process. They go in deeper every time. I have multiple complex deepeners through the process so that they're as deep as they can go. They're feeling as good as possible. They are totally following the instructions. And I do 2 things. One has to do with, I associate any thought of smoking with, and I do not say the word disease. So I do not say the word disease. I associate smoking, any thought of smoking, with discomfort, unease, dissatisfaction, those types of words. And I repeat that a lot. A taste in the mouth that is unpleasant, a disturbing feeling in the stomach. I repeat that again and again and again. And then I ask for the subconscious mind to nod the head when you understand and accept this instruction. And I get a head nod. Now I go through the memory erasing. I started off by simply saying, okay, forget, forget, forget. Now, if you've ever done that and been in hypnosis when that happens, it's like a rinse goes over the mind. Everything just stops. Everything just goes blank. You're in a complete, wonderful state of nothing. And I now give the instructions to the subconscious mind that any memory of smoking is erased from the mind, disappeared, vanished, gone, totally forgotten, absent of any memory of smoking in the mind. And so this goes on and on and on. I do that a multiple amount of times. And again, get a subconscious head nod, ask when they understand and accept my instructions. So then I build them up. I do the ego strengthening through the magic mirror, make her feel just super great, super good, and do the wake up. It's not over. So typically she felt entirely different. I will always test just to ratify what we did, just to verify and validate that this is working. So try to want a cigarette, and she just sort of went blank. She says, well, I can't want a cigarette. And I continue to urge her to try to prove to herself that she can't do it. I then reinforced, okay, how does saying I'm a non-smoker feel when you say that? And it feels really good because I built that up in the hypnosis session. And then I test the memory part. I say, okay, notice, and again, I'm leading in this is a very leading question, so, and that's intentional. I say, notice now, even when you try to remember what it was like when you used to smoke, notice how hard it is to remember that. So I ask it as a very leading question. And of course, she knows that she used to smoke, but she cannot find any memory of it. And she even said that she knows I was talking. She could hear me talking, but she has no memory of what I said. And I took the time to explain to her. I want her to have a conscious understanding as to why I did that. So I explained to her that I did that because I don't want you going back in your memory to think about it and undo it. And immediately, once I explained it to her like that, she said, oh, yeah, that sounds great. And I later explained that at some point in the future when you are totally convinced you're a non-smoker, when you have no chance whatsoever ever going back to a cigarette, it's very likely your subconscious mind is going to say, okay, now you can remember what it was like to smoke. And then those memories can safely begin to return to you. She was totally satisfied with the result and got a really positive, really great result. So that's my long story on erasing memories. Typically, if someone has gone through a trauma, it is possible to erase the effect of a trauma, but I don't necessarily think it is usually ecological. It is much easier if someone has been traumatized to, instead of erase the memory of the experience, to reframe it, to get something from the experience that they learned that is important. Bear with me, my phone is making noise. Here's some good news. Okay, if any of you are familiar with Jackpot, Nevada, it's just over the Idaho border. It's a little, very small gambling town. I have someone who is looking to have me there and do some stop smoking with people. So I'll keep you posted on that. So that's the details of that. Yeah, generally it's not a good idea. I don't think it's necessarily a good idea to mess with erase someone's memory. It's fun as all heck to do it. Because even Jeff Stevens, he did this one thing with someone. He made it so that whenever they said the word magical, the last 10 seconds of their memory would be erased. And for a period of time. And so people were going around doing the stupidest things to this guy and saying the word magical. A lady would come up to him, grab his groin in her hands and say, "This is so magical," and then move away, and he wouldn't know anything about what happened. And of course, it was very funny. But generally, I don't like messing with people's memory. Okay. Again, questions, comments. I don't see any new questions, which is okay. Let's move on. Miko, I hope you're on here. You had asked about the how to deal with hyper-empathic hypnosis subjects. I really want to understand what you meant by hyper-empathic hypnosis subjects, so I can answer that better. I have an idea of what that means. Hyper-empathic person would tend to feel something. They tend to, in my mind, tend to be subject to anxiety a lot. So they don't feel good around other people, around groups. They need to be isolated and alone. Generally, I would say that what I would be dealing with, as I understand hyper-empathic hypnosis subject, is the ability to cope with anxiety. But again, if you can give me a little clearer understanding of what you meant by that, I'll be happy to answer it. Miko also asked the importance of sensory acuity in the Stevens hypnosis model. And that's a really good question. Okay, so sensory acuity, the ability to pay attention to the environment, and in this case, to the individual that you're working with. The Jeffrey Stevens hypnosis model is a model in which you're working with someone face-to-face, in person, or at least you're seeing them. I work with people over the internet a lot to set it up and work with them. But I'm still seeing them, I'm still responding to them, and I can still hear them. So sensory acuity is the ability to notice with all of your attention what is happening and how the other person is responding. A couple of things about the Stevens hypnosis model. It is, with hypnosis in general, with influence in general, the greater your sensory acuity, the much more dramatic the results you're going to get. Because if you are aware of how someone is responding, if you're putting all of your attention to their face, the color of their skin, if it flushes, the movement of their eyes, whether they tear up or swallow, or how incredibly still they look, as long as you're paying attention to that, you are going to notice things. You're going to notice that, a sensory acuity, when you ask for a head nod from somebody, nod your head when you understand, if their eyes are open, if they're conscious, they'll go, yeah. In hypnosis, it is not like that. A head nod in hypnosis is much more ecological. In other words, it's much smaller. And sometimes it's almost imperceptible. You have to really encourage a head nod. That you'll notice through sensory acuity. You'll also notice when you start talking about a subject and people start to respond emotionally. Even in the interview section, when you start paying attention to people and you hit on something that has an emotional content to it, you'll notice something. There's some typical signs I could notice, but I couldn't break them down until I asked a friend about it. That I hit on someone emotional, and typically they stop. Their breath actually stops. They look away, and that's when the emotion starts to build, and either their face will turn a little red or tears will go into their eyes. And you know that something is really meaningful in what's happening in that conversation. I'm going to give a plug out too. If you really want to sharpen your sensory acuity, get the Ellipsis manual by Chase Hughes, get his training manual to notice these things, and it is going to blow your mind away when you in conversations with people. And you start to notice this, what you would ignore before, but become almost so obvious about what's bothering them, the stresses they're under, what they're trying to do to protect themselves or build themselves up. It's unbelievable. So I highly encourage you get the Ellipsis manual and also the training manual that Chase Hughes has out there. Excuse me, it's not good. This is a subtle thing. People, when they touch their face, it tends to discredit them or diminish their credibility. So even when I'm with someone on a teleconferencing service, I will turn off the camera if I'm going to scratch my nose or anything like that, just so they don't see me touch my face. I can't do that here. I think you understand what's going on. I actually did have an itch. So now, let's assume you're just reading a script. In fact, I was thinking about this question using sensory acuity in the Stevens hypnosis model. If you understand the hypnosis model and all the 10 steps, you will get a result with a lot of people just by going through the script, not paying attention to them, just assuming they're going to follow along. If I were to do, say, a group hypnosis session for stopping smoking, if I were to do a group hypnosis session for stopping smoking, let me see here. Oh my goodness. If I were to do a group hypnosis session for stopping smoking, I would first of all preface much of it, and bear with me, I'm doing some things that are distracting me. I would preface everything by letting them know that I cannot, excuse me again, that I cannot use sensory acuity on everyone within the group. So what I would letting them know that, I would emphasize how incredibly important it is for them to follow the instructions and do it with just total commitment and focusing in on it. So I would make a point of mentioning how in some ways I'm handicapped working in a group. I can't pay attention like I do to every individual person. But the good news is you can pick up the slack. Just know that as I give an instruction, follow it to the very best of your ability. Don't even hesitate, make it true. So that's how I would make up for that. And I've got some questions here. Is it possible to memorize all the sensory acuity signs in trance? It's a lot of information. Well, actually, I wouldn't. I mean, yes, you can go into a trance, go into hypnosis, make that instruction that you are memorizing it. But you really, and Dion asked this question, you really have to go out in public. You have to be with people and watch these things. That is when you are going to learn these sensory acuity signs, these subtle signs. I assume that's what you meant, Dion. Okay, and I'm going back to Miko's comment about empathic, hyper-empathic people who the problem in their life is they take on other people's emotions all the time, and they feel them quite strongly. Can hypnosis help with them? Yes. What I would do is just the typical golden box in the Stevens hypnosis model. Create an emotional protective barrier so that other people's emotions simply do not go through it, or they go through only the slightest. You can see it, but not have to feel it taking place. And so I hope that should answer your questions. Okay, and Dion asked a question again. When I erase memories, does that cause only amnesia, or does it false memory or confabulation? Any unexpected downside? Well, the interesting thing about erasing memories, a story that Richard Bandler did. He was working with a stop smoking client, and he literally erased every memory of this guy ever smoking. So when he was done, he wasn't a smoker. He never was a smoker. He never smoked. He had no memory of it. And this caused a problem in that people would show him a picture of himself with a cigarette in his hand, and he would negatively hallucinate it. And he would get in arguments with people. No, I've never smoked. I've never smoked in my life. So yeah, there is somewhat a downside of that. It created at least a false memory, or the absence of a memory of something that actually did happen. So again, one of the reasons I'm really hesitant of creating amnesia in people is that of things that they have done is because it can have an ecological effect later on. Now, I don't necessarily object to creating amnesia for what happened in the hypnosis session. And I will let people know when I'm done. I'll ask them, notice you don't remember anything about what was said in hypnosis. You heard me talking. And they go, yes. And then I will explain to them why I did that, so that they at least have a conscious understanding of why they don't remember anything. And my explanation to them is that if you have no conscious memory of what I said, you can't go back in your memory and try to undo it. And when I explain it like that, that usually satisfies them quite well. So I do hope that answers your questions. Okay, is there anything else that I can answer here? If you bear with me for a moment, once again. Okay, there we go. All right. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. If you have any other questions, please let me know. Let's see. So, yes, yeah, it very much is a collaboration when I'm working with somebody. I think Dion's asking about, made a comment that it's a collaboration thing. If that means, and I think he's referring to, that it is a collaboration of hypnosis is something, I'm always just a tour guide. You've got to do the heavy lifting. You have an obligation to follow my instructions. And people will ask me, are there people who can't be hypnotized? I make it very clear, yes, there are people who can't be hypnotized. They are unable to follow instructions or unwilling to follow instructions. So you are either brain damaged or have no attention span, or you're just being a jerk and not doing what you came here to do. And that usually clarifies it. Hypnosis is a very natural state. It is something anyone who can focus their attention can enter into. And so, yes, it's definitely a collaboration. Thank you, Dion. I appreciate that. Okay, guys, if there are no other questions or comments, like I just try and point out, I try to do this every week. I don't know about, every week that I can do it on Saturday, I will continue to do this. Some interesting things might be coming up in the next couple of months. So I may do it at a different time, but I will still be able to do it. If you have questions, post them here in the group. If you know people who are interested in hypnosis, even in the slightest, invite them to the group. My God, this is a wonderful resource, and I love the questions that you guys ask. So please let me know. Oh, got a couple more comments. Let's see what else we got here. I'm going to refresh this page. There we go. Let's see. Here we go. Okay. Oh, Miko asks, do I think that a process like the learning place could be created for intelligence? Well, my first thought is I think so. I think it is. Generally, I mean, my first thought is if you have what the learning place does, which should create this very powerful eidetic memory, your IQ is going to go up a little bit because it's one of the small things that are measured. But IQ and intelligence has to do with being able to draw associations in a new and creative way. So, gosh, I don't know. I think it's possible, but I'm not sure. Let's see. Anyway, I cannot think of anything more that I'm going to be doing here. If you guys have any further questions, please just mention them in the comments below, post them to the group, send me a private email. If you want to talk with me and get some personal consultation, I'd be happy to do that. Usually there's going to be a fee involved, so just be. But I also like talking about this just because it's the coolest damn thing in the world. I've been doing it for 20 years and I'm so happy about it. So guys, come back next week. Thank you so much. I hope to see you soon. Send me your questions. Take care. Bye.